so I came in a few minutes late and didn't have a chance to put in the ticket. I hope you all mind what I promise is a brief question. I think as serious thinkers and intellectuals, we do ourselves a disservice by separating out the question of the increasing privatization of the university and the shifting of cost burdens onto students and the question of police violence, since it was, of course, exactly in protesting that economic process that the police were called in to impose those policies which the students objected to. Now, you said in your introductory remarks today you were prepared to take whatever steps were necessary to make sure that this never happened again. And I applaud you for that decision. Now, if we look at the numbers, we see that the number of people harmed by student protesters in your tenure here, the bodily harm done to people by student protesters, that number is 0. Whereas if we look at the bodily harm caused to student protesters and others by police in those situations, police who were in no situation being threatened with harm, the number is, depending on how you measure, between about 60 and about 150. So it seems to me that a serious and committed move to make sure that this kind of thing never happens again would begin by making sure that we do not suffer the presence of the police, who are the sole source of harm to students in that situation. And moreover, I would remind everyone that across the country and across the globe, many, many campuses, indeed the majority, do not have a sworn police presence, and those campuses do not have a higher rate of crime, or especially violent crime, on those campuses. So given that that's the case, are you willing to fulfill your commitment to make sure this never happens again by removing the fundamental source of harm and threat to students, which we have seen repeatedly, including quite catastrophically on the 18th?
Well, the promise that I've made, and I will be true to it, is that we will seriously reform on how we understand and implement law enforcement on the campus. That implies that we should never have, and I just said that, we should never have an event like this again. We should never really stop people from protesting peacefully. At the same time, our campus needs to be safe. I mean, there are times and over again where, like the Virginia Tech event, and there are, I'm sorry, let me finish, all right?
Of course.
There are people who, our campus has 32,000 students and 30,000 staff. We are a community of 60,000 people who come here every day. We have, you may not see it in the news, but we have people who are raped, in fact students. We have students who are threatened. On every day there is an event on our campus. It's a 60,000 people community. If you then can develop a construct where a 60,000 people community can live without having the means to protect themselves, an open community, then I would like to understand how that can be done. Because if it can be done in a way that keeps everybody else safe, I would be the first one to adopt it. But we need to make sure that we have responsibility for every member of our community who comes here every day to work with pride and then to go home and think that this environment allows them to do what they want to do every day, where their passion is. And that's all.
We agree on that. I need to offer one brief response. I do agree on that. I need to offer one brief response, since the specter of Virginia Tech has been raised repeatedly, not just by you several times, but also by various other members of the administration. Now, one thing we know, of course, at Virginia Tech is that the police who were on campus there didn't prevent it from happening. So the logic that the police would prevent it, if we were to believe that, we would have to think not that they prevented that, but that they prevent similar events elsewhere as a kind of deterrent effect. If that were the case, we would see more Virginia Tech-like events on campuses that do not have a sworn police force than on campuses that do. But in fact, the opposite is the case, historically and internationally. So the idea that the police somehow would free us from the specter of dangerous violence is factually incorrect. And I think if we're going to proceed with this discussion, which is a very serious one, we want to not raise false specters of fear to motivate our arguments, but actually to proceed along lines based on actual and verifiable facts. Thank you very much.